My name is Mike McKibben. I'm the founder of Leader Technologies in Columbus, Ohio. This presentation is going to give a little of my background, and it's also going to describe what is in effect a $1 trillion lien that we have just filed against the federal government, called a Miller Act notice. If this is the first time you've heard our story, then you can be forgiven for being skeptical, because I certainly would be if this was my first time hearing this story. But I assure you, everything that we talk about in this presentation is true, and this is arguably one of the largest financial crimes ever. At the end of this presentation, I'm going to come back on for a couple of closing comments. Thank you. This may come as a surprise to you, but I invented social networking. I have the patents to prove it. I have just served a Miller Act notice on the executive branch at the White House. We are demanding that the government pay us for using my invention since 2000. President Trump had nothing to do with this theft, but his predecessors Bill Clinton, George Bush, and Barack Obama did. However, the Miller Act requires that we serve the notice to the current U.S. executive. That's why the notice is addressed to President Trump. The abuse of my inventions by the government now totals into the trillions of dollars in damages. The Miller Act, which is 40 U.S.C. 3131, allows unpaid suppliers to federal contracts to get paid when the prime contractor does not pay for the benefits they have received. President Trump can fix this injustice to me, my shareholders, the U.S. Constitution, and we the people. In 1993, just as Bill Clinton was bringing his Arkansas drugs, pedophilia, money laundering, and blackmail machine to Washington, globalists aligned with Clinton, also called the establishment, the deep state, and the shadow government, hatched plans to seize control of the emerging internet via rogue U.S. intelligence insiders. However, historically, this agenda to restore tyranny to elitists reaches back to 1776, when all power was placed into the hands of we the people. In 1995, I helped bail out AT&T from great industry embarrassment. I rebuilt their AT&T Access Plus 3.0 email system in 6 months, in time for the release of Windows 95. Bell Labs, who quoted 3 years to build it, became my testers. The commercial internet was just beginning. I launched one of the first 10 hosted websites by AT&T WorldNet, along with Disney and others. I knew 3 things from that experience. AT&T, Microsoft, IBM, and others were focused on legacy groupware for collaboration platforms. Groupware could not handle large-scale internet volume. We knew that if we could solve this internet scaling problem, it would be revolutionary. So in 1997, I assembled a world-class engineering team. We worked on the internet scale problem for 3 years. In December of 1999, we had the proverbial aha moment. We invented a new kind of metadata. It enabled the exchange of metadata instead of whole files. Some experts say our discovery was akin to Edison's light bulb in its impact on society. For example, in rough numbers, in legacy groupware, a 1 megabyte file shared with 100 people generates 100 megabytes of data. In our invention, a 1 megabyte file shared with 100 people may generate 10,000 bytes. That's a 10,000% efficiency. We knew our discovery was unique. Among my team were architects of major digital networks in banking, defense, procurement, intelligence, and telecommunications. So I started looking for the best patent attorney in the country immediately. In February of 2000, we were introduced to law professor James P. Chandler. He was touted as the best. Chandler's credentials seemed to support that. He advised the White House, Congress. By April of 2000, Chandler was participating in our engineering design sessions. We thought we were being well protected by Attorney Chandler. We were wrong. Before I tell you how Chandler ripped us off for the deep state, allow me to give you some of my background. My wife Nancy and I both became Christians while attending Ohio State from 1969 to 1973. Nancy studied honors French and Russian language. I studied civil engineering and played semi-professional trombone. After graduation, we postponed our careers and toured the world in a jazz rock pop gospel music group named Living Sound. Living Sound felt called to ministry behind the Iron Curtain in communist lands. We performed in schools, concert halls, and churches all over Eastern Europe. We did 17 concert tours in Poland under the patronage of Roman Catholic Cardinals Wyszynski and Wojtyła. Notably, none of us were Roman Catholic. The church in Poland welcomed us with open arms. They protected us from the secret police trying to stop us. Our translators, Richard and his wife Renya, risked everything to organize and translate. The secret police dogged us, but no one stopped us. Sometimes brave local priests and grandmothers with babushkas would step in to shoo them away. We sang to well over 2 million Poles. From Poland, we expanded our work into the Soviet Union. No contemporary gospel music group had ever tried it. Would the KGB arrest us? Would our friends be persecuted? No one knew the answer because it had never been done before. We felt strongly that God wanted us to trust Him and to try. But we certainly didn't want to get anyone in trouble or hurt. So I traveled to Tallinn, Estonia, to meet with church leaders to discuss the idea. I told them that we wouldn't come if they didn't want us to do it. 2 days later, they said they would take the risk and wanted us to come. They said, if you are willing to take the risk, so are we. Brave young church leaders volunteered to organize and translate. 2 leaders, John and Herbert, said their Soviet government was evil. They believed it was their Christian duty to speak out. They said everything in the USSR public culture was a lie. They believed we could, together, speak truth to power through our music. I asked them, we know people go to prison for what we're planning. Are you prepared for that possibility? They said yes. Herbert later served 2 prison terms. John was threatened with a 10-year term by the local KGB colonel before Ronald Reagan's intervention. Another Leningrad friend, Valery, was incarcerated in a mental hospital. We had recorded his Christian rock album, The Trumpet Call. It was broadcast into the USSR by the BBC. Living Sound toured 3 times in the Soviet Union, once for over a month. A 4th official invitation to an Armenian rock festival was canceled just 2 days before it was to begin. KGB watchers were everywhere. Even so, everywhere we went, local musicians were eager to jam. Churches organized packed concerts, sometimes with just a few hours' notice. We shared our faith in Jesus Christ with all these newfound friends. On the month-long 1979 tour, when we arrived in Moscow, the KGB had lost patience with us and canceled the rest of our travel schedule. They forced us to stay in Moscow. Then miracle after miracle unfolded. Herbert called Artemy Troitsky a blacklisted underground music promoter. For 2 nights we jammed with 2 blacklisted Soviet bands, Arsenal and Time Machine. The audiences were 300 to 500 of the USSR's cultural elite. One attendee was Alexandra Pakhmutova. She had just been appointed to the Supreme Soviet along with future Soviet Premier Mikhail Gorbachev. She had just also been named the official composer for the 1980 Summer Olympic Games. We recorded 2 of her songs, We Can't Live Without Each Other and Childhood Dreams. She included those songs on the official 1980 Summer Olympic film. We then became the first and only American gospel music group ever to perform on Soviet national television. Here is the EP cover that distributed up to 1 million copies of her 2 songs. And here are some shots from the live TV show. Here's Yuri Filanov, the cultural editor for the Komsomolskaya Pravda, interviewing one of our singers. And here is the set list from our music director. We had no idea what God was doing, but we knew it was special. We were just 20-somethings full of faith and love for our fellow human beings. Despite the good news in Moscow, the story was bad news for those who had helped us. They were being persecuted. We saw up front and personal the totalitarian police state tactics of fear, intimidation, censorship, and oppression. Little did we know that we were witnessing the final days of the failed globalist attempt to take down Christianity in Russia. During the communist reign of terror, they murdered over 40 million Soviet citizens, mostly Christians. Within 10 years, communism collapsed. Christian Russia had been an impediment to globalist goals for world domination. Our main contacts and translators were Estonians. They told me in 2012 that our presence in the early 1980s opened a window of new possibilities for them. They credit our work as not insignificant inspiration for the singing revolution in the Baltics in 1989. Soviet tanks pulled out of the Baltics rather than run down the choirs. Some of those choirs had recorded on equipment we left for them. Imagine that, change without war. The mistakes of godless Marxism and social unrest that I experienced in the Soviet Union are now being repeated in America. The same New World Order globalists who funded Vladimir Lenin and the Bolsheviks in 1917 are now working to destroy our American Republic in 2017. These globalist bankers did not go away with the collapse of the Soviet Union. They only regrouped. Now back to Chandler. Little did I know that Chandler was working for these New World Order globalists. When I met them, they were busy rewriting laws, regulations, policies, and issuing executive orders in order to gain permanent control over the internet. When Chandler realized that we had solved IBM's and Microsoft's scalability problem, he set out to steal it. Speculation, you say? Nope. We have hard proof thanks to whistleblowers and his legal assistant who screwed up. Chandler had agreed to be an ethical director with us and signed a duty of good faith. He also signed multiple attorney-client confidentiality agreements. Chandler only pretended to protect our interests while he secretly fed our innovations to the New World Order globalists in the IBM Eclipse Foundation and the National Infrastructure Advisory Council, NIAC. He stole my idea for a Harvard kickoff. I had proposed to team with IBM and do a university launch at Harvard where my son was attending pre-med. Zuckerberg was still in high school. He stole our proven social integration with telephone and wireless. Our design respected personal privacy. Chandler's deep state theft did the opposite. It disrespected personal privacy. Chandler leveraged government power to get companies to comply with his NIAC plans. They appear to have coerced anyone who resisted. Government agencies were probably clueless about this conspiracy. All spying power was centralized in the National Security Staff at the White House, NIAC, and the IBM Eclipse Foundation. It appears that the very same globalist New World Order forces that destroyed Tsarist Russia in 1917 are now trying to take down the American Republic in 2017. America and Russia appear to be their primary targets. Hence, they are striving to drive a political wedge between our two countries. Chandler has been one of the spy masters helping direct this campaign. Chandler knew my essential concept for handling personal data was respect. If you host it, you own it. He turned this constitutional respect for privacy on its head into the opposite. We, the government, host it, we own it. Adolf Hitler used a similar crony capitalist model to get private company assistance in World War II. Just look at some of Germany's largest companies today. They are Hitler-era companies like VW, Mercedes, BMW, Krupp, Siemens, Bayer, and they're all bigger than ever. World War II is a prime example. With globalism, humankind is doomed to continuous wars that feed the military-industrial complex that President Eisenhower warned about in January of 1961. Chandler and IBM ripped out my privacy controls and are pushing a Big Brother Internet of Things with deep state shadow government assistance. Their public-private deal was simple. Spies get all user data for blackmail, in the name of national security, of course, and private companies exploit that data for profit. Chandler drafted executive orders, created this mess, starting with Clinton and carrying on through Bush and Obama. My leader shareholders and their families deserve a payday. As an American entrepreneur and inventor, I played by the book. So did my investors. I hope this doesn't sound pushy or arrogant, but don't you agree that it's about time that we get our payday? I ask you, if you were an electrician hired by the prime contractor to wire a building and you did the work, but the contractor was paid and you were not paid, wouldn't you demand payment? Our case is really that simple, except in our case the damages happen to be astronomical. We are a test case. There may have never been a larger financial crime in history. If leaders' property is not protected, whose will be safe from globalist confiscation? Soviet citizens owned no property. Americans may soon have their property taken if this madness is not stopped. Many of our officials are blackmailed by the current illegal spy data collection dragnet. When President Trump pays leader will be able to provide respectful social media that provides the features you like without sacrificing your privacy and property rights. If we lose this battle, I fear the ideals of the American Republic will disappear forever. Why do I say that? Because the globalists have almost full control of the internet and have set about to crush voices of accountability and a free press. If the internet is controlled by tyrants, then they will blackmail everyone. We the people can restore God-fearing accountability to our governance. Our politicians and bureaucrats have become neutered by the blackmail. We have an imperative that we the people control the governance of the internet, not the globalists. Your Fourth Amendment rights to privacy matter. America fought a revolution to secure the right to privacy over our papers and personal effects. My hijacked invention is being used to recreate old Soviet-style censorship. These very same globalists have created all the conflicts of the 20th century. It is now time for all American citizens to take a stand and say no to media censorship, spy intrusions, unmasking of personal information, and profiting from the data of people's private lives. I know it sounds like a gruesome novel, but you really can't make this stuff up. The facts are what they are. But the fact is, the same globalists who for 80 years controlled the Soviet Union and killed something like 40 million of their citizens, mostly Christians, are now at it again in America. They're attacking our Fourth Amendment right to privacy, our Fifth Amendment right to private property, and these are specific rights that founder John Adams said were sacred to a healthy republic. And both of those are under attack. And it seems to me if we let these rights go, we will have closed the door on 1770.